welcome to another episode of the Digital Blueprint. Our topic today are social media ads. I'm joined today with John. John, welcome.
Thanks, Jim.
We're going to talk about many different social media ads, who they're right for, what type of business you should be. Let's go ahead and get started. When we talk social media ads, you know, the first thing that I think a lot of advertisers think of are maybe a Facebook ad, but we have a lot more capabilities. Talk to me now about the different channels that we can advertise on.
Yeah, so when you're talking across social media platforms, you got obviously Facebook and Instagram, but really, you know, Snapchat, TikTok, LinkedIn. There's different avenues based on who we're trying to target, whether it's B2C, B2B, and with each of those come different formats with similar targeting capabilities, right? I mean, everyone is able to kind of narrow down who their core customer audience that they're trying to reach is, regardless of the platform.
Okay, so as we would set any of these campaigns up, I think you hit the nail on the head, right? We need to define audience, number one.
Yep.
Let's define who we're going after. Once audience is defined, each platform has a different way of running the ads, and that's what one of your local experts can help you do, is to get these ads run, the audiences set up correctly out of the gate. Additionally, they have similar yet a little bit different ad types. Talk to me now a little bit about that.
Yeah, each of them have a few different ad types and where ads can be inserted during, the time that somebody is actually on a social channel, right? It could when you open up say TikTok, for example, you can have an ad appear directly when you open the app, or in feed apps or in feed ads, where as you start scrolling down your social media feed, you could have ad insertions there. Different ad formats from carousel ads to video ads, image ads, and all can kind of have their own different makeup, from descriptions to call to actions, etc.
This can be a little bit overwhelming for a local advertiser, and that's why I think it's imperative to reach out to your local media professional or a digital agency in your market to really not only define and make sure the campaign's set up correctly, make sure the audience is correct, but really to kind of help you define exactly which channel you should go after, right?
I think it's one of the biggest things a lot of times that often gets overlooked, right? Is because, who we're trying to reach might not be the core demographic that is actually active on that particular channel.
Yeah, you hear a lot about TikTok, you hear a lot about Snapchat, but it may not be right for your business category. And that's why I think hiring a professional is such an important thing. Now let's talk about budgets. These are all sold at different price points, and we're not going to get into that right now.
Yep.
But how would I determine an effective advertising budget for one of these social media ads?
Yeah. So again, generally, when you're kind of backing into your overall budget, you want to try and have it such where, you feel like you're hitting an effective reach and frequency to the audience that you're trying to go after. And again, really based on who the customer is, I think can help really determine which channel the ad should be run from.
The other thing I think that some local advertisers might overlook is just because you hear a buzzword or a buzz channel like TikTok, you have to take your DMA size. You have to take the number of people that are on TikTok. And once you do that math and divide it down, what's the weighted value of that advertising type based on your overall advertising budget? And I think those are really, really important things.
Right. I would also think, too, the type of content that the advertiser has. If they're very video heavy and centric like that, things like TikTok could be a great channel for them to use, such as well as could be Facebook, LinkedIn potentially. But yeah, really understanding kind of the ad formats of the type of content of what you're trying to promote.
Let's talk now a little bit about the back ends and the targeting capabilities. Are they extremely similar across all platforms?
Very similar. Some of them, where there could be certain age restrictions on some, you can get down into as low as 13. Some have restrictions that maybe are 18 and above, things like that. But from the, kind of the categories that audiences can generally fall into, they're fairly consistent across all channels.
So let's talk about how to set up a basic campaign. And the reason we want to give you this information and this advice is because I want to make sure the person sitting in front of you is capable to run your campaign. So what would you call like the no-brainer campaign setup rules?
No-brainer campaign setup rules, defining your geo, and then having extensive conversations with your marketing professional as far as who exactly it is you're trying to reach.
Okay, so messaging would be important.
Yep.
Audience is important.
Yep.
What about reporting? What should I expect as an advertiser for any of these social media ads?
So from a reporting standpoint, you would look at, based on the cost of the media, right? Because depending on the channel that you're running your campaigns on, the cost of the media is going to be different. So how many impressions am I getting? What is the reach frequency? How many clicks am I driving to my website? And from there, post-click, what are people maybe doing on the website?
I think that's a really important part. The other thing that I think we tend to kind of gloss over is the fact that you need regular reports, right? Yeah. Not an emailed report, right. But you should, as an advertiser, expect someone to sit down with you on a monthly basis and go through your digital campaign, including these metrics.
Anyone who also is in media selling that advertiser something is probably with that advertiser on a monthly basis talking about their core media or whatever else they can offer that particular client. And so this should be just a routine monthly thing that is done.
Let me ask you this. If I'm an advertiser and I've got a pretty good Facebook presence, maybe Instagram, and I hear so much about TikTok, and my brother's nephew tells me that I should be doing TikTok, but I don't have a TikTok platform, is that a mistake?
Well, no, not necessarily. But I mean, again, ultimately, I would think, having sufficient content to warrant having a channel like TikTok is probably the biggest thing to consider for an advertiser, right? Because ultimately, similar to what, if you go to a particular social media page, say a Facebook page, and the last post was from, May of this year or last year in the fall, it generally can have a negative kind of connotation as far as what that the potential customer's perception of that business could be.
I think that is like the golden rule. Make sure you have a strong social media presence, whatever channel you want to advertise on first. Mm-hmm. Appropriate content,
yep.
Appropriate posting frequency, and then you can consider creating more intent by one of these social media ads.
Yep.
John, once again, appreciate your expertise, and that'll do it for this episode of The Digital Blueprint.